In the summer of 1945, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a young naval engineer. He worked for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, designing oil tankers for the war effort. His life was ordinary, dictated by the rhythms of work and family. A 3-month business trip brought him to the vibrant city of Hiroshima. It was now August, and his work was finally complete. He was ready to return home to his wife, Hisako, and their infant son, Katsutoshi. August 6th was supposed to be his last day in the city. He packed his bags, said his goodbyes to his colleagues, and prepared for the journey home. The morning was clear and bright, with a deep blue sky overhead. On his way to the train station, he realized he had forgotten his personal seal, a vital item for travel. He turned back, heading toward the Mitsubishi shipyard. He disembarked from a tram, starting his short walk through the city. As he walked, the drone of an airplane caught his attention. He looked up and saw a lone American B-29 bomber, the Enola Gay, soaring high above Hiroshima. It seemed so small and distant against the vast expanse of the sky. He watched as 2 small objects dropped from the plane, deploying parachutes as they fell. He thought they were strange, but not immediately alarming. The city continued its morning routine, oblivious to the impending cataclysm about to be unleashed. Suddenly, an incredible flash of light erupted in the sky. It was a silent, searing magnesium flare, a sun created by man, brighter than anything he had ever imagined. The world turned pure, brilliant white. An immense force, a deafening boom that he felt more than heard, picked him up and threw him through the air. He landed hard in a nearby potato patch, the world spinning violently around him before everything went dark. The blast ruptured his eardrums, and the intense light left him temporarily blind. A wave of unimaginable heat followed, scorching the left side of his body. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, a fire consuming his skin. When he could finally see again, the world he knew was gone. The bright morning had been replaced by a dark, suffocating twilight. Buildings were flattened, and fires raged everywhere, painting the sky with an eerie, ominous glow. Dazed and severely burned, he began to walk through the devastation. The air was thick with dust and the smell of burning. All around him was a scene of utter destruction and human suffering unlike anything ever witnessed. Amidst the chaos, he found his 2 colleagues, Akira Iwanaga and Kuniyoshi Sato. They too were injured, but they were alive. Together, they had a better chance of surviving the nightmare that Hiroshima had become. They navigated the apocalyptic landscape, a world of shadows and ghosts. The city's rivers were choked with the desperate and the dying. It was a silent, horrifying procession of survivors moving through the ruins of their lives. They found refuge in an air-raid shelter for the night. Sleep offered no escape, as the sounds of pain and sorrow echoed in the darkness. He worried desperately about his family, wondering if this was the fate of all Japan. The next morning, driven by the singular thought of returning home, they made their way to what was left of the train station. He had to get back to Nagasaki. He had to see his wife and son again. He managed to board a train packed with other survivors. The journey was agonizing, his burns throbbing with every movement. Yet, the thought of his family gave him the strength to endure the pain. The train rattled westward, carrying him away from the epicenter of destruction. He was leaving one hellish landscape, completely unaware that he was traveling towards another one. His ordeal was far from over. When he finally arrived in Nagasaki on August 8th, his family could barely recognize him. He was covered in bandages, a walking specter of the man who had left. Their relief at seeing him alive was mixed with horror. He went to a local hospital to have his severe burns treated. The doctor was shocked by the extent of his injuries, but did his best to clean the wounds and apply fresh bandages to his arm and face. He spent the day resting, recounting the unbelievable story to his family. They could hardly comprehend a single weapon causing such total annihilation. In Nagasaki, the world still felt normal, and the war seemed far away. Despite his injuries and the doctor's advice to rest, his sense of duty was strong. On the morning of August 9th, he went to the Mitsubishi office in Nagasaki to report to his supervisor about what had happened. He stood before his boss, a man named Hideo Tanaka. He tried to explain the scene in Hiroshima, the bright flash, the immense boom, and how an entire city vanished in a moment. His supervisor listened with disbelief. His boss was dismissive. "One bomb destroy a whole city? That's impossible," he said, shaking his head. "You must be exaggerating. Your injuries are probably making you delirious." Yamaguchi insisted, trying to find the words to convey the scale of the horror. "It was a light, a pica," he said, "and then a boom, a dawn. That is what destroyed everything." The memory was still vivid, still terrifying. It was at that exact moment, at 11:02 a.m., as he was describing the flash of Hiroshima, that the world outside the office window turned an identical, brilliant white. The unimaginable was happening again. Before he could even process the familiar light, the office windows exploded. The powerful shockwave from the second atomic bomb, Fat Man, ripped through the building, a mirror of the deafening roar he had heard just 3 days prior. He was thrown to the floor once more. The force of the blast was so strong that it tore the fresh bandages from his burns. Incredibly, he had survived. His skeptical supervisor stared in stunned silence, his disbelief instantly shattered. This time, the bomb had detonated over his home city. He was approximately 3 kilometers from this new ground zero. Tsutomu Yamaguchi had now been hit by 2 separate nuclear attacks and had survived both. His own injuries were now an afterthought. A desperate fear for his family gripped him. He scrambled out of the ruined office building and ran through the chaos and destruction, his heart pounding with dread. The city was in ruins, just like Hiroshima. He raced towards the part of town where his house stood, praying that his wife and son had been spared. The fear of what he might find was almost as painful as his burns. He arrived to find his home damaged but still standing. And inside, miraculously, were his wife and son. They had been out shopping for burn ointment for him and were in a sturdier part of town, which had saved them. The reunion was a moment of profound relief in a world torn apart. They found what shelter they could, clinging to one another as their city smoldered around them. They were alive, and for now, that was all that mattered. In the days that followed, the double dose of radiation took its toll. Yamaguchi developed a high fever, his hair fell out, and his wounds refused to heal. For weeks, he drifted on the edge of life and death. On August 15th, they heard the voice of Emperor Hirohito on the radio, announcing Japan's surrender. The long, devastating war was finally over. For Yamaguchi and his family, the struggle for survival was just beginning. Slowly, against all odds, he began to recover. His body, though scarred and weakened, healed. He and his family started the arduous process of rebuilding their lives from the ashes of 2 cities. Life went on. Tsutomu and Hisako had 2 more children, both daughters. They raised their family in the new, post-war Japan, carrying the memories of what they had endured, but looking towards a more peaceful future. For most of his life, Yamaguchi rarely spoke of his experience. It was a private burden, a story too immense and painful to share. He focused on his work, his family, and living a quiet, normal life. His unique status as a survivor of both bombings was not officially recognized by the Japanese government until 2009. He became the only person confirmed to have been in the blast radius of both atomic bombs and lived. In his later years, after losing his son to cancer likely caused by radiation, he felt a new duty. He began to speak out, sharing his story with the world. He became a powerful advocate for nuclear disarmament. He believed his miraculous survival was not a coincidence. He felt it was his destiny to live, so that he could bear witness to the horrors of nuclear weapons and fight to ensure they were never used again. He traveled the world, speaking to students and diplomats. In 2006, at the age of 90, he even addressed the United Nations, pleading with world leaders to abandon the path of nuclear proliferation. He never forgot the blinding light or the sound of the world breaking apart. The memories were etched into his soul, a constant reminder of the destructive power humans possessed and the fragility of peace. His story was captured in documentaries and books. He wanted the younger generations to understand the reality of what had happened, not as a distant historical event, but as a deeply personal human tragedy. Despite the immense trauma he carried, he did not live a life of bitterness. He found joy in his family, in poetry, and in the simple beauties of the world he had fought so hard to remain a part of. Tsutomu Yamaguchi lived to be 93 years old, passing away in 2010. His long life was a testament to his incredible resilience and the strength of his will to live. His experience stands as a unique and harrowing chapter in human history. To be at the epicenter of humanity's most destructive act once is unimaginable. To be there twice defies all probability and logic. He was a man who straddled two apocalypses. He saw the end of the world twice and walked out of the ashes both times, carrying a message for the future within his scarred body and determined spirit. His legacy is not just one of survival, but one of purpose. He transformed his personal pain into a universal call for peace, ensuring his voice would continue to resonate long after he was gone. The story of the man who survived 2 atomic bombs is a solemn reminder of our capacity for destruction. It serves as a permanent warning against the horrors of war and the catastrophic consequences of nuclear arms. His incredible journey teaches us about the profound resilience of the human spirit. It shows that even after witnessing the worst of humanity, one person can endure and dedicate their life to creating a better, more peaceful world.